Welcome to the director breakdown for the Journey to Agaiatar music video. Here we're going to look at the frames and I'm going to talk a bit about what we thought. As you might have seen before when you've seen the video, there's a lot of interpretation that is required to understand the story. If you're going to listen to the music album with the audio play attached to it, you're going to find more information about what is actually going on in these frames. Today I want to assume that you might have heard or listened into some of that. Just go through the video itself and say what we were thinking, really. So this first frame here, you can see we're in Agaiatar. You see the floating islands in the background in the typical Narranatrondel architecture style. And one of the things that we wanted to do right off the bat was introduce a start frame and an end frame that were similar in terms of location and in terms of framing, so that we could create a circle. So that's actually quite a common storytelling technique, but what we wanted to do here was to show the impact that young Cassius made on the city. And so for that, this is kind of like the before frame. So we're seeing the city is a bit rocked down. Of course, the frame itself is black and white. As kind of that's. I'll leave people their own interpretations. So I'm not going to say like what we were going for with that. But the idea in general is that we're seeing that this is the before state and that things are kind of rocked down. And I think our background artist did a really amazing job. So then we had this fight scene. Akshay, our sound designer on this particular piece, was working on making these clicking sword sounds work and then transitioning it into the battle scene. And that transition was also mirrored in the image, which was kind of the same shot. So young Cassius grows up. Now it's his first day in battle, and he's looking down no longer on a friend, but on a foe. And there's kind of the similarity there, the parallel of like looking down, having had the experience of looking down at a friend, and now he actually needs to kill that person. It's just that situation that startles him. And that makes him realize I don't really want to do this. With this battle frame, we had a lot of fun because there's just so much going on, and in particular, like the centerpiece, like the bigger personnel carrier that we had there in the background, took some liberties of taking references from history and like having dead horses there and just creating chaos with like the person on the right there jumping over the thing and dead people around and him standing kind of in the centerpiece. In the beginning, the frame was a bit cluttered, but as we started like the gold, it really drew in the eye, and we wanted for there to be more going on. So, and this is all kind of like setting up the situation, Cassius' first battle, and like he will in the future, like not engaging with the combat. Actually spent quite a bit of time here with the design of the medic and of Amity's armor. You can kind of see on the things that she's wearing that she's a scout unit, and he's laying there with like a wound. There's a mention of memory illness, so he has gotten an infection that it's not painful, but it's going to kill him eventually. So there was kind of the idea of her standing there finding out. And kind of time running out in the foreground, or has begun to run out. We also felt it was appropriate that the symbol for medics and for field medical service would be somewhat related to the shape of an hourglass. So this is what you can see here in the right corner. We had quite a few quite a few back and forths just concerning the field HQ here that you see on the right, and we ended up going with something that arguably looks quite Roman. What we're not really seeing here yet are like the dragon towers and the sort of the airship installations, which are on the other side of the walls. So this was actually one of the first frames that we made. This was the test frame, elite frame, because in the beginning when we were considering, oh, this is going to work, with the parallax the way we imagined, with the black and whites and the gold style, we made like 2 frames, this and the next frame, to kind of see if that would work out. And this frame was the first one, just because the trees really created this very nice parallax, this very elongated frame that we could sort of drive along. Honestly, the idea of that came from Sherlock Holmes, the second Sherlock Holmes film, where they were running through the forest and you have to kind of the tracking shots from the side. And I just really like that. So these armor pieces that you're seeing here, just spent a bit of time trying to figure that out, pulling together concept art, and we ended up removing the visor on like the main guy here to be better able to see his expression. It's an asymmetrical uniform, and we were kind of looking into to pull together the thematics of the colors, which of course you can see here, right? Because it's black and white. I'm looking forward to in the future actually seeing them in a colored version. But having the asymmetry, having a lot of rope designs, all of these things are going to be recurring themes in this region. So the haunting caves, I must say I'm really looking forward to in the future to actually get more into it. Right now here they're still kind of on the surface. We're kind of seeing them descend into this in a way. It's kind of it's the descent of the character and like from here and outwards into this kind of darker state of mortality, right? Like of dealing with the mortality and of the, not necessarily that he is going to die, but the issue that he doesn't feel like he has become the person that he was supposed to be, and that he hasn't really served yet, and that he feels like that he's unfulfilled, and that he is grasping at something to make his life meaningful when it comes finally to the final test, when his shadow and his light will fight for the destiny of his soul. This is the moment that he's trying to get something, like he wants to feed the light, but his shadow is strong, right? Because he has this perception of I have not really done what I needed to do, and instead of finding things that he can hold on to, he's descending. And this is also why Amity is so important in this whole thing, because if he would have done this alone, it might not have, gone well. So we talked a bit about this is kind of the first depiction, really, that we have for the cave world. So there are different parts of the Caveworld Territories, and this particular one here on the border to Frangeland is quite inspired. Like, if you can see, there's a lot of roots, a lot of a lot of tree symbolism, also with the door on the previous frame. And we were kind of looking for something sort of a bit more cobbled together, and we worked together on this with Ruth from the world building department, just like looking at caves, looking at different things, and then bringing in symbolism from comparable religions in the world, right? Ancestor reverence, nature worship, etc. Now we don't see as much of this express as we had to design to see it this very briefly, which is a common theme with this. But this particular express that you're seeing here, it looks a bit like a train from the side, is actually a kind of hovering train that uses Fagerium to have a very light touch with the rail, to have as little friction as possible, and then a speed rail that can be powered by horses or other animals. So what they're traveling here is the Underground Express, which is sort of a remnant from the time of the Immortal Kingdom, and now it's just it's a rock down train, and we wanted to also kind of make the train station look a bit like nobody cared. Like we put all these different objects there. It was not really clean. It has seen better days, and so that's kind of the state of the dukedoms at the moment. So, for those of you who have been who have good eyes or good memory, will know that what he's holding there, what we've seen before, is actually a small hourglass that he's carrying with himself, which we can't really see here from the side. But it's kind of interesting that way, because he has the time in his hand essentially the entire time, and whenever we saw our glasses, we wanted to highlight them and we wanted to bring them forward with the gold, because really this is what it came down to. Yeah. So they meet the caravan, and then arrive at this Dreamgate, and a Dreamgate is a place of a type of magic that's not fully understood yet, and around it, hence the name. Dreams are usually quite intense, but people don't really know what to do with it. They're just nice things that are around in nature. So they stop there and sort of take a respite. And there's also a piece in the album for that particular sort of calm night. And yeah, I must say I really loved how the artwork came out. It really shaped up to be quite exactly what I had in mind. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, usually when it came out differently than I had in mind, it came out better, which is a testament to the art team. So in this particular frame, if you look quite closely here, you can already see that the quality of his skin is deteriorating, which is the first signs of this illness that you can see from the outset. And we had conversations with Gonzalo Ramado, who's doing our biology world building, and he was looking at how this illness would have worked, and eventually we came up with a couple of symptoms that you could see, and one of them included this deterioration of the skin and of the pigmentation, and you can kind of see that throughout the whole video, getting like stronger and stronger. So I always love that shot when we kind of go through the trees and towards the caravan. It's like kind of like coming towards us, like you can't stop it, you know. And it's coming, and then the battle begins. With the soldiers attacking here, the context is kind of that they're traveling through territory of the Agaiatar clique, which is at war with the Territorial Merchant Brigade, which has territories to the north, and so these are the mercenaries who are coming down, disrupting the supply lines, disrupting the convoys, and that's kind of what's happening here. The Amity stopping him from using his sword. That's just one of these things that felt right, and that it's one of these things where the interpretation is really with the viewer of how you want to lay that out. In the audiobook, we kind of went into how he felt about that, and that he felt like he should have died on that hill defending these people, and that would have been a more reasonable death. The fact that Amity managed to sort of spare his life is something that is also, to me, like thinking back to it in a way a bit controversial, because that probably would have been something that he would have wanted. Maybe it was because she thought that the mercy that he had shown should not be compromised. So this is one of my favorite shots. I just love big sweeping reveals. And Luca worked on this quite a lot. I remember that with Ricardo and Thiago, I believe. And so this is Athenaea or Catora, and I spent quite a bit of time with this particular city, kind of top-down drawing the city plan and trying to figure out and like writing the lore in the city. And so it's quite close to my heart, and I feel like there are going to be quite a few stories that can still be set in the city, because it's a crime city. It's past its peak, but it has all these monuments from the Immortal Kingdom, which are still around from the time when it was one of the most important cities in the world, actually. But today they're just there to get a ride, to get an airship, and go to Agaiatar. This brief shot, weirdly enough, is kind of my favorite, which it really wasn't for a very long time. Especially when we had the storyboards, it was kind of like, yeah. But just filling in the details, just on the world building side, filling in the details, developing the airship and the costume of the captain. The whole backstory with the ship itself, the certus, where it was made, how it was built, and then also these little smaller details of like the airship in the back having just risen and like releasing the ropes that have held the Fagerium in place. These are the kind of things that I really love to see, because to me, frames should never just be ideally it should never just be the information that is like most obvious for the storyline, but it should be stacked with all of this kind of stuff. It's, in a way, when you have an AI image, you don't want to look closer, because if you look closer, you're going to see all the things that don't make sense. With this sort of thing, it's supposed to be the other way around, right? The closer you look, the more things there are that you could know things about and that actually have a reason to be there. And we spent quite a bit of time with quite a few people going through all the concepts, talking to experts, making sure that we would have a world here that would feel grounded, and that you could actually go and look deeper into and find all these little details. The golden shallow there to the side is actually kind of like a callback to the Golden Guard song, which is in the album, which is really the sole reason why we placed them there. But in retrospect, I also found it to be kind of an interesting thing that at the moment when Cassius looks to Sanctor and in a way solves himself, music is playing, because I don't know, it's maybe the appropriate moment to say right now that we're releasing a music album, but I believe that music is a form of magic, really, because how does it work that you can just play a couple things and then emotions happen, right? So it wasn't my idea. But I really loved how the colors came in, kind of in two layers on the foreground, kind of rolling themselves up, foreground, background. I really like that touch. So Sebastião and Melissa were working on the animation for this, and we had done a lot of tests, but of course they didn't have like the finished frames until relatively shortly before completion, and I kind of seeing these sorts of things happen was really cool, because we were kind of like thinking about it theoretically whilst we were storyboarding, but then seeing, you know, like this creativity coming in from the individual contributors, that's really the kind of thing that you can't really plan for, and that starts fleshing it out. And I think this is really the joy of the process, is that in the beginning you have an idea of what's important, but you have an idea mostly of the things that are important, and then all the details which make the thing though, that make it something, that make it real, that make it something that you can touch and see, and that makes an impression on you. These are the things that the crew comes and they fill it in, and they make it alive. And I think this is all like these little things that you can see. And I mean, there are too many of these details for me to point out right now. But just in a frame like this here, for example, there's so much going on, so many small decisions that have been made, from the colors of the costumes of the people standing in the front, to the backlight, to how the little islands were placed around Sancto, the flying city that you see here, to the reason why this big platform there exists in the middle of the hilt. So, and this was really this flying city of Sancto was really a tribute to stories that Thiago had read in the past. And I must say it's probably one of, if not the most striking frame from the whole project. I don't really want to say, and I will not say in the future, why people end up in these stories turning into radiant or shadow souls. Of course, sometimes there are very strong implications, and sometimes we kind of sort of know. But I do not think that I should be sure about this, nor that I would want the audience to be certain about this, that if a character dies, that they become a radiant soul because of the actions of the movie necessarily, or of the animatic, or whatever the story was, because in a way the way that the soul chooses shadow and light, it's a question of morality, and that is quite a delicate matter, that many different decisions that could not ever be part of the story would factor in. And so of course, there are some reasons and some ideas and some thoughts as to why he ended up turning into a radiant soul. Was it the mercy that he showed? Was it his relentless pursuit of the thing that would give him a chance for the light? Was it the effect that his death would have after his death? Agaiatar. Also one that I had for months before. There was a map for that, and there was quite a bit of thinking, and it was actually one of the last frames that we made, and we were scrambling a bit when we were making it, but then it just turned out really great, I think. I was really kind of blown away what Thiago did in kind of pulling this together, and then I think Rebecca worked on it, and like a lot of people. It's to be honest, Thiago and Rebecca would know who exactly worked on every single frame, but because there was just so much work going in and so many people involved. But this particular one, I was really pleased how the separation of the different districts was visible, so you could see kind of the sun temple to the side, with the temple sort of back. You see the lighthouse near the water, kind of like center left. In front of it, the bigger temples. To the very left, you see the wall of the Valley of Redemption, and in the middle, you see the big airport with the tower, and and kind of having and seeing the sort of the dome on top with where the roof was cut off, and at some later point another little tower was added where airships could dock. hand. And I really like these little details, like seeing the express that kind of goes there through like the low-hanging clouds at the base of the airport, and then how Thiago executed them, and then like the way that the train station was made. And I think one of the reasons why I like this frame so much is because of the backlight, the sunlight coming sort of this way, which allows us to see all these like dots of light with the windows kind of coming forward, and it really gives it kind of this striking character with the very typical Narrow-Rondel, like kind of like dome shapes, right? One of the little things that we wanted to do with this particular frame was add all these little birds, all the animals, even some growth wolves, which are there to protect the sultry growth, into the scene, kind of showing that the animals would come and watch the soul being entombed. The whole setting was this is in the Valley of Redemption, and this is a great honor to be laid down with your soul tree in the Valley of Redemption, because it's only the legends and the heroes of Agaiatar get to be put there, and even the Agaian, which is kind of like a king, the king of Agaiatar, joins here with his guard, and then we see Amity. And she remains, and we return to where we started. There's a nice quote: "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive, restarted, and know the place for the first time." Now, in his particular case, he's coming back in a body bag, which is unfortunate for him, but it's a recontextualization of a place that you know through a journey, and you return, and even he returns as a legend because he died. But nonetheless, he turns what Agaiatar is, what it stands for, or what it wants to stand for, right? Like they put a statue down because that was the kind of ancestor they wanted to honor. It renovates the streets literally. It uplifts it, it improves the idea of what Agaiatar could be, and that's the hand of the soldier, that's mercy, instead of striking him, helping him up. Overall, this entire project was meant to be done a bit quicker than we expected, but as we were going through the process, we figured that we wanted to do it right, because as we were seeing it unfold, we wanted to do our due diligence. We spent a lot of time making sure that the world building was just right, and I think in the end it kind of paid off. And even all the work and all the details that we put into this particular region that we might not see all that much of in this animatic, we might eventually see again. For all those who've watched the animatic and who listened to the music album, thank you very much for giving us your time. We would really appreciate your recommendation.